Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, the 19th Tuesday of the year and the first Tuesday of May, which marks two big events. National Teacher Day, which goes back to 1944 when an Arkansas teacher began a campaign for a day to honor her fellow teachers. That caught the attention of Eleanor Roosevelt, who in 1953 persuaded Congress to proclaim a National Teacher Day, which has been celebrated on this day ever since. Fast food places, restaurants, and stores all having Teacher Day specials and discounts today, so enjoy that if you are a teacher, and kudos to educators everywhere. The first Tuesday in May is also World Asthma Day, dedicated to educating people worldwide about asthma. News from around the world, Israel specifically topping the headlines today, along with the violence that we saw overnight at the Met Gala in New York City and colleges because of the Israel-Hamas war. More than 1,000 arrests were made last night. You can read more about that at Newsmax.com. I'm going to get into it in a moment, along with a fantastic segment on Trump's trial from Greg Kelly. But first, I'm going right to Eric Bolling's interview with South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. This is like the big elephant in the room, as they say, right? She's responding to the criticism over the shooting of the dog story and her book.
I'm watching the liberal media folks have a field day over trying to take down a potential Trump vice president pick. But Kristi Noem has never been afraid to defend her record. So let's bring her in right now, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Governor, really good to have you. Governor, listen. Yesterday, you were on CBS's political show, Face the Nation, where, as you point out accurately, the host, Margaret Brennan, interrupted you 36 times in a 15-minute interview. Governor, I've known you a long time. I know you're a mom. I know you're a follower of God. I know you can quote the Bible. Meanwhile, because of the story, the leftist media has you out there killing Fido. I'm going to give you a minute or so to tell your side of this story without interrupting you. Please.
Well, I'll tell you what, my book that is being released tomorrow, No Going Back, is a story about how we're not going back to the way politics used to be, that it is a book that is incredibly important. It's a how-to guide for the American citizen about how they can get involved in their government and politics, and it tells a lot of vulnerable stories of my life, of tough decisions that I've had to make over time. And I know that a lot of the liberals and even some Republicans and some Democrats are attacking me over a story that was in there. And literally, Eric, the whole decision was 20 years ago. It was choosing between the safety of my little kids and the public and protecting them versus a dangerous animal that was killing livestock and attacking people. And so I talk about that decision, and I put it in the book because I want them to know that most politicians, they hide from the truth. They run away from making tough decisions, and I don't do either of those. I take my responsibility. I don't ask anybody else to do the tough decisions and make those hard decisions for me.
Governor, in hindsight, do you regret putting that story or anything else in your book?
You know, I think that in South Dakota in the last couple of elections that I've had, my political opponents have tried to use this story and tried to use it against me. I wanted people to know the truth. That's why it's in the book. I want people to know the truth of the story, how hard it was for me, how difficult it was, and that it is something that, you know, I had to choose between the safety of my children versus this dangerous animal, and I chose my children. I think any mom and any grandma put in that situation would find it just as difficult, but would still always choose family and making sure that they're taking responsibility. I don't ask other people to do hard jobs for me. That's what this book is about. It's about the fact that it talks about how Donald Trump broke politics. You know, when he came onto the scene, he was a very different kind of a candidate. He was himself. He was genuine and real. He didn't pretend to be perfect. And I appreciated that about him. We're not going back to the old politics where these people that were in elected positions, you know, think they're better than the American people. And the American people, I think, appreciate honesty and genuineness, and they appreciate us telling them, you know, what our backgrounds and experiences are and how we make those tough decisions.
Okay, So that's her explanation for shooting the dog. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe she could have just had the dog put down. Here's Eric's follow-up.
I've also written a couple of books, and I know how the process works. You write some chapters. You don't write the whole book at once. You write a chapter or two. You send it to the editors, and they edit. They read it. They add. They subtract. And here's my question. The editor. The editor. Was she possibly a plant, a liberal plant? Because I'm not sure either one of these stories, the dog story, the North Korea story, seems like the Kristi Noem I know.
No, the buck always stops with me. I take my own full responsibility. I wrote this book, and I take the responsibility for what's in it. It's a great book, Eric. I hope everybody reads it and buys it. It's available tomorrow, no going back. It's a powerful book, and it tells a lot of things at the end of these chapters about really what people can do to get involved, that their voice matters, their vote matters, but also that it talks about money in politics and how that's an important part of politics, but it's being spent wrong, what they can do to push back on consultants who are in this game just to get rich, how their phone calls and their emails make a difference. This world is still run by people who show up, and that I will always fight for the people of South Dakota. I will always fight for the people that I'm elected to represent them and have the hard conversations that we need to protect our freedoms and our liberties.
Governor, I read part of it. I can't say I read the whole book, but I did read excerpts of it. I have the book. I read passages. It seems no going back points to something. I think that the title, correct me if I'm wrong, but points to something that maybe my audience, I think, really loves about you. No going back to the days of the Rhinos, the Romneys, the Roes, the Bushes. Please elaborate.
Oh, it's true. That's what I really believe is I hear so many people saying, oh, I wish we could go back to the days of politics the way they used to be in the 80s and the 90s. Well, the fact of the matter is that we're not. We're in a very different time and a different age, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing that we can recognize that people have flaws, that they're not perfect, but they still can serve and they can still make hard decisions that are important to really right the ship that has gone so far off the rails with Joe Biden in the White House. We need Donald Trump to be our president again. We absolutely do. He knows that I'll do anything I can to be helpful and make sure that he wins, because when he's in that White House, I as a governor get to be on offense and get to fight and defend for my people and their freedoms and their liberties. So, this book talks a lot, too, about the fact that we live in a country that loves to be offended by each other. They love to get offended by everything, and I'm asking people to get over it, to start talking to each other. When you have a diversity of opinions and backgrounds and experiences and political views around a table, you end up with better policy. You end up with better discussion, and we have to get back to civil discourse in this country so that we really can protect what our founders gave us.
So there you go. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem on the balance with Eric Bolling. After all the talk, all the criticism, the book, No Going Back, the truth on what's wrong with politics and how we move America forward is the full title of the book. It is out today. She didn't elaborate there on North Korea, and Eric didn't really push her into that, but apparently in a chapter about meeting world leaders, she said she met Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Her spokesperson, a guy by the name of Ian Fury, told the Associated Press in a statement that it was an error to include Kim Jong-un on that list, and the publisher would correct future editions of the book. So after yesterday's news of a potential ceasefire in Gaza, Israeli forces have made the long-anticipated move into Rafah, which has been a refuge for more than 1 million displaced Palestinians, something you've heard the White House talk about. However, according to Israel, it is also the last Hamas stronghold. This is White House National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications, Rear Admiral John Kirby.
And John, what is the president's position on a limited operation into Rafah?
I don't think I can answer it any differently than I did with Mary. We've been very clear that we don't support a major ground operation in Rafah. Operations in general that put at greater risk the more than 1 million people that are sheltering there. And the question right now is a hypothetical. I mean, we're aware they drop leaflets. We're aware that they're warning people to evacuate. I let them speak to their operations and to their intentions. nothing's changed about where we are with respect to operations in Rafah that could put those people at greater risk.
Right, but you know that they are asking people in the area to evacuate, and the possibility of a limited Rafah operation is on the table. So I'm asking, does the president believe that Israel can execute a limited operation into Rafah while adequately protecting the lives of civilians there?
The president doesn't want to see operations in Rafah that put at greater risk the more than 1 million people that are seeking refuge there.
So he wouldn't support a limited operation into Rafah?
I think I've answered the question.
That was in Monday's White House press briefing. Reaction from Governor Mike Huckabee on Newsmax.
I'm just sitting here watching Kirby give these responses, and it's like this White House is so desperate politically to get something done that they're not talking about the 5 American citizens who are being held hostage. They're not focused on that. And they somehow honestly believe that Hamas is a trustworthy partner to negotiate anything. These are the people who went in October the 7th, as you just mentioned. They didn't just murder Israelis, they massacred them. They butchered them. It was the most absolutely despicable kind of attack on innocent civilians that we've seen. I was there in December. I went to these villages. I talked to survivors, talked to people who are hostage families. And I just don't think the world fully appreciates what the Israelis have been through. And for us to be trying to back them down, I just simply don't understand what it is other than politics driving that nonsense.
That's what struck me, too, Governor, is that it seems that Kirby was trying to give credit to Joe Biden. Was that your takeaway as well, that he's now all of a sudden this great peacemaker?
Yeah, I think he's going to hurry back from the beach in Delaware and say, look what I did. Well, he didn't do anything. I mean, this was essentially brokered by Egypt and Qatar, and I wouldn't exactly say that those are 2 countries whose best interests are for the U.S. hostages, or whose best interests are for Israel. They just want this to go away as well. And Qatar has been complicit in some of this. They shelter some of the top leaders of Hamas. So I just write me down as very, very suspicious about anything that is agreed to, because you have to at some point accept that Hamas is operating in good faith. If they are, it'll be the first time in their history that they've ever operated in good faith.
Yeah, history.
These are animals. They're savages.
Governor Mike Huckabee on American Agenda with Bob Brooks and Lydia Serrani. Savages indeed, and that's an understatement if you go back and consider the things that happened on October the 7th. If you've been watching or reading any news today, you saw the insanity that took place on the streets of New York last night with the anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian peaceful protesters breaching barricades and fighting with police officers, as well as damaging property. At the same time, protesters at the Rhode Island School of Design now took over an administrative building, and at MIT, protesters broke through barricades to retake an encampment. This is Rob Schmitt.
During his presidency, Barack Obama warned about the dangers of dark money in American politics. Today, his radicalized party could not function and would come nowhere near winning anything without that dark money. Over the last several weeks, we've seen rage over Israel's invasion of Gaza. And we've seen that swell into nationwide chaotic protests. We're seeing one right now happening at the Met Gala. The usual suspects, young radical leftists descending on major cities and college campuses, spewing Marxism. This time it came in the form of anti-Zionism, a fury very similar to anti-white or anti-capitalism. This time the Jews are the target, but it's standard cultural Marxism, fury at any people, any culture, any race, with the audacity to prosper and live better than others. Here's how the fight against Zionism has looked in this country.
It's about every day.
Be glad, be grateful that I'm not just going out and murdering Zionists.
Crazy how this has just turned into such a huge thing in this country so fast. And it looks just like the fight to preserve, late-term abortion, just like defund the police or any manic climate change movement you've ever seen. This is the standard issue left in this country, and there's a reason that they all kind of look the same. and why they all seem to be the same kind of people. Because it's all funded by the same dirty, radically left dark money. The big players in the left-wing assault against this free country are mostly familiar faces. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, who spent $400 million securing only Democrat votes in 2020. George Soros, who's openly on a mission to destroy Trump and destroy American freedom. The Rockefellers, LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman, the bank who bankrolled the ridiculous E. Jean Carroll rape allegation against Trump. The hotel magnate Pritzker family, spoiled child JB, is currently running Illinois into the ground. Some of these people made their own money. Others were born into extreme wealth, but they all share one thing: the guilt and self-loathing that comes from being that wealthy. It's left them with one catharsis: to destroy the system that allowed them to have all that wealth by using their money to push cultural Marxism so that they can sleep at night. Something that, ironically, will only destroy the quality of life of pretty much everyone in this country except themselves. The great irony of it all. This dark money not only fuels the radical pro-Hamas protests that we're seeing right now, it funds the entire Democrat apparatus.
Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. Today, the Trump trial is continuing in New York City, and I mentioned Greg Kelly had a fantastic segment on the trial last night.
Let's get out and work together and get this done.
We will make America great again.
6 months to Election Day. Our new poll shows a tight race for the White House.
Wow! Guy sounds like a monster truck rally announcer. That's John Carl. And they cannot believe that this race is so tight, despite all their efforts, right? I mean, they locked up Donald Trump. They put him in jail. He's on criminal trial right now. And the poll they're talking about, he's doing excellent. He is beating Joe Biden. Just imagine if he weren't in a criminal court case. Just imagine if they hadn't arrested him. Look at his circumstances. You know, the courtroom sketch artist, they do that for mobsters, right? But there he is. And Joe Biden has all the trappings of being president. Imagine if this were a fair fight. If Donald Trump weren't facing 4 phony indictments, the media might, just might, wishful thinking here, have the bandwidth, I don't know, to talk about real criminal conduct. Hunter Biden, anyone? I mean, what that guy was into. And if it's not criminal, I mean, it is politically poisonous, right? To be taking money from the Chinese, which the House Oversight Committee has established $3 million came to the Biden family from China. And what was done with that money? Well, it went through a bunch of shell companies and then they divvied it up. I mean, even Hunter's girlfriend, Haley, you know, Beau's widow, got some of the money. They denied it. I mean, they lied like crazy about this. Joe Biden lied to the American people straight to our faces. He has no respect for us. Donald Trump had this guy's number all along.
I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had it. The only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
That was October 2020, almost 4 years ago. And that Joe Biden looks and speaks and walks completely different than Joe Biden today. Back to Greg Kelly.
We cannot forget or let them, the media, allow others to forget what's really happening in this country. But I do have to address the trial. I have to confront this because it's a threat to all of us. They're coming for us. They're coming for you. If they can get him on falsifying a business record, put that up if you would. This is the crime, falsifying a business record, right? In the first degree, in violation of penal, whatever. So there is such a thing called the statute of limitations. You hear about it in TV shows. What does it actually mean? Well, it's a deadline. It's a deadline from the commission of the alleged act to when charges have to be brought. If you wait too long, evidence decays, it goes away, witnesses die, they move out of the country. You have to have a reasonable statute of limitations. So for falsifying business records. I really wanted to know. So I went to the New York State official website on this stuff, and they had all the crimes listed and what the statute was. You know, you see them all there. They're terrible. Everything from really bad things to debt collection, emotional distress, murder, fraud, kidnapping. You can go through this entire list, and you know what you're not going to find? Falsifying business records. It doesn't make the list. So you actually have to go do a little bit more research and find out that it's a general crime, and they make it a Class E felony. So what is the statute of limitations for that? It is 5 years. 5 years. So now I want to show you something, please. This is that Ed McMahon style check that we had blown up. These are the checks in question. There are about 11, actually 24 of them. Most of them were written. Take a look. Can you see there? That is 2017. 9/12/2017. That is 7 years ago. The charges were brought, as you remember, last year. They missed the statute of limitations. And also, one more thing about this check. Notice anything? It is a personal check. This doesn't say Trump Organization on it, all right? Donald Trump, that's his home address, everybody. This is a personal check written to a personal lawyer. It's not a business record. They have a definition for business record. This doesn't meet it. And Michael Cohen was not an official attorney for the Trump Organization. He was a personal attorney. I have it right here. All the way back just before Inauguration Day 2017, Michael Cohen has been named to serve as personal attorney to Trump while he serves as president, Cohen said. Next, please. Cohen said he will defend Trump in a personal capacity, and his role will place him outside both the Trump Organization and the White House counsel's office, okay? Cohen said he will resign from the Trump Organization and vacate his Trump Tower office. And why will he do that? Cohen said he left the company to avoid a perceived conflict. Personal checks to a personal attorney, not business records. And what's the charge? Again, falsifying business records. If you pay your own attorney from your own account as an individual, that's not a business record. The Trump attorneys brought this up before the trial, and the judge was like, oh, no, citing this case, that case, 30 pages of gibberish, right? And I think they make it complicated on purpose, but it's wrong.
So the trial is continuing in New York today. Yesterday, the judge slapped Trump with more gag order fines and again threatened to throw him in jail if he continues to violate the gag order. President Biden spoke at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's annual Day of Remembrance ceremony in Washington, D.C. Today, he's also meeting with the president of Romania at the White House, so look for some highlights or lowlights from that. In Russia, today was the official swearing-in ceremony for Vladimir Putin's next term in office, marking nearly 25 years of power. Putin, already the longest-serving leader since Stalin, and is constitutionally eligible to run for yet another 6-year term in 2030. And if you missed it last night, after years of delays and billions of dollars, NASA had to scrub the launch of the Boeing Starliner due to some sort of valve issue. The next launch attempt will likely be on Friday. Stay up to date and informed on all of the news all day and night with Newsmax. It's available on most major cable systems. Also, make sure you're streaming on the new Newsmax Plus. If not, go to newsmaxplus.com, get signed up. You can also get a free trial. It includes all of your favorite shows and hosts. Rob Schmitt, Eric Bolling with The Balance, Greg Kelly Reports, Greta Van Susteren, Carl Higbee, and more, with analysis from people like Governor Mike Huckabee, former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, law professor Alan Dershowitz, and more. Newsmaxplus.com. I'm Tony Marino. This is the Newsmax Daily. Thank you, as always, for listening. Please share it with your friends and family. Don't forget, it is also now available on the YouTube, the Newsmax YouTube and Rumble page as well. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Maybe grab a taco and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.